What up? What it is? What's poppin'? It's the neighborhood nice guy, K Dot, and welcome to Code Name Storm. I am here with a very, very special guest. He's been my guy for a real long time, and I appreciate him for coming on. He is your Storm beat writer and beat reporter for Circling Seattle Sports and has his own podcast with the illustrious Jasmine and Alfred Corriette Beyond the Byline. This is your boy, Kristen Braswell. My man, how you doing?
Yeah, well, my man, K Dot, my man, thank you for having me on. It's another good day in the W world. How you feeling?
Absolutely, I'm doing well, my brother. And before we get started with Storm information for our Storm fans, we did have some breaking news not too long ago that recently happened. Forward Cameron Brink, it's been confirmed that she has a torn ACL for the Los Angeles Sparks. She was selected for the 3x3 Olympic team, and unfortunately, with the torn ACL, she will be out the remainder of the season as well as the Olympic break. So, what were your initial thoughts when it happened, and how devastating is this news for you as not only a WNBA reporter but just a fan of the sport?
Hearing the news of Cam going down, that was devastating, man. She was having such a good rookie campaign. I mean, arguably right up there for rookie of the year. First in blocks at 35. The next closest was Aaliyah Edwards out of Washington at 16, excuse me, 80 overall rebounds, 16 steals overall, third in steals, seventh in point per game, 7.5. And out of her first, I thought, she walked off the court, putting pressure on the leg. And I thought, okay, maybe it's just sprain, maybe it's just a bad twist. But at some point, the camera saw her having to be carried off the court. And one thing I do wish we would stop doing that as far as filming players like having to be carried off the court, things like that. We don't need to see that. It just replayed all the time. And we don't need to see that. But yeah, once I saw that she had to be carried off, I was like, man, I'm just hoping for the best. But yeah, it's devastating. Man, we need over the season because it's just such a quick turnaround for these athletes, man, coming out of March Madness and just playing 4 years of ball. It's tough on the body, man.
Yeah, it's incredibly tough on the body, and you did tweet that, and I appreciate you for tweeting that because it for us as former athletes, a lot of fans that never played don't understand how strenuous things can get on our bodies, and when it comes to the women athletes, especially translating all of their athletic abilities from the college directly to the pros, where it's a much faster game, it's much more rigorous. It can take a toll out on you, and we definitely wish nothing but the best for Cameron Brink in a speedy recovery. So with that, let's go ahead and segue into the Seattle Storm. You've been covering the Seattle Storm, for a little while now. So first off, we really, really appreciate everything that you have been doing from a coverage standpoint. We need more of that, from you. And we definitely appreciate all of the coverage that you've provided with us, especially, as you've been tweeting and writing and with Beyond Byline. And by the way, it's an incredible podcast. I have to check it out. So, let's just get into some of the season performance and some of our key players. Obviously, we have the Funky Four plus one more in Skylar, Jewel, NECA, Ezzy. And for me, even though she I mean, she sometimes she starts, sometimes she doesn't. But Jordan Horston, what are your initial thoughts on this lineup, and how has this lineup come together, even with the struggles in the first 4 or 5 games where they went, I believe, 1-3, but then went on a crazy winning streak to now sit right at 9-5 going into the game tonight versus the Aces?
And you made a really good point. Start off with Jordan Horston. Her second as like clips the team has put out, and also just like behind the scenes when she's bonding with the team, coming off her shoulder surgery. Um, you know, she's such a talent, man, and she's just scratching the surface. I know I said that before, but game in and game out, watching her on a nightly basis come in and just immediately flip a switch like that on both ends of the floor. She's really been working on her jump shot, 3-point shot as well, as Coach Quinn always tells us. But mostly that 10 to 16 foot jumper right there that she's developing. She's killing it. She gets to her spots. She takes advantage of her size. And last year I think one of the biggest issues that she had was not being able to play the four.
Hmm.
And she played a significant amount of time at the four last year, just out of necessity because the team didn't really have anybody. And she was there, right? At
Right.
6'2". But she didn't have the frame for it. But now she's built up a little bit. She's stronger. She's faster. Her foot speed. I mean, she was already fast coming out of Tennessee. She was fast last, and she knows it. She takes advantage of it every time. And again, for her to be her size and be as agile as she is, she's just a threat. She's just going to keep getting better. I just think that a lot of people have made a case for her to start this season. And as much as I understand it, I kind of understand where Coach Quinn is coming from and not starting her because you kind of need that to come off the bench. Um,
Yes.
I mean, she plays what Victoria Vivians brings to the floor as a veteran presence, knocking down the three ball. I mean, she's really given them that kind of edge at the perimeter that they've needed. She's a really underrated passer. I feel like people didn't watch enough of her when she was in Indy and previous stops before, like just in college in general when she was at Mississippi State. I mean, she's averaged 49 points her senior year in high school for a reason. Like
Right.
she's been good. It's not a secret. But it's hard. I'm just going back to Jordan. She is just a light, man. Like the way she is growing, the way she's been, kind of just molding as far as the veterans that she has in this team. I mean, she has a plethora. First, she had Jewel. Now she's got Jewel. She's got Skylar. She's got NECA. I mean, there's just a plethora of them around, and she's just going to continue to keep getting better.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. And another thing that I wanted to just kind of mention is Victoria Vivians, because someone who was released or waived by the Indiana Fever, in the offseason, and for Seattle to pick up a veteran like her, she's been really, really good for the Seattle Storm and has done a lot as a starter for them, and implemented herself really well. So one thing that I've always admired about the Seattle Storm is, again, you do have that, that core four, right? When we talk about Sky, we talk about Jewel, we talk about NECA, and we talk about Ezzy. So the person within that four, to me, who shows so much more upside, so much more flavor, however doesn't really get noticed compared to the other three, is Ezzy Megbagor. So what has your insights been with Ezzy this season coming in, and what do you expect her to do more of for this team going forward, and how do you see it going forward for her potential all-star future?
And you made ending that point. I feel like people are forgetting. Ezzy was an all star last year.
Exactly.
She's not new to this. She's true to this, just like Victoria is to the league. And I feel like having a future first ballot Hall of Famer like NECA next to you, starting with you, it's just going to add so much to her game individually, but also within the team. The way that coach has been using them as two hubs on both sides of the floor,
Mm,
mainly up towards the free throw line. I mean, there's just so many options. They can really just both pass the ball. But one of the things I have noticed as far as Ezzy's game that's growing this year is her aggressiveness driving to the rim, man.
yes.
There has not been a run that she has not seen that she hasn't taken. And I love it because last year And years before, she hasn't really been that kind of cerebral with her attack. But now she's 6'4", about 185 pounds. Being that size, being that nimble, that quick, there aren't that many players in this league that can honestly stay in front of her.
Right.
And you think about it and you say that, and it's like, yeah, but there's guards and there's forwards, but yeah, by the time she gets to the rim, her armor's already up. The ball's at the rim. You have to stop that. And either you go give her the two or you go send it to the line. And right now, I mean, you send it to the line, I wouldn't really do that because she's shooting around 91%. I think it's a career high right now. So yeah, don't do that. But Ezzy has been growing just as a player and also within the system. And coaches really attributed to really just everything. The new facility, really just Pokey Chapman and Coach Ebb. They have been monumental behind the scenes. We don't give them enough credit. And that's why I wrote that entire piece about the coaching staff in Seattle. Really just three phenomenal Black women, also two Black trainers in Brittany Vaughn and Tanisha Jones, that don't get enough credit for the way that they've helped this team recover in the processes of really just understand that this is a veteran team. And Skylar made a joke about that a few weeks ago about every time she hears a veteran, she thinks people calling her old. And it's not that no one's calling you old. It's sometimes you need a little more help than some other people, a little bit more rehab and recovery process. And they've all been just monumental in that aspect. And Ezzy has shown that she has the potential to really take all of that. And honestly, I think become a top 5 player at her position if she's not already.
Yeah, I 100% agree once again. And allow me to segue into the whole coaching aspect of it, because I did read that piece and it was an incredible piece. So as we talk about it from an outline standpoint, going into the coaching and what you've seen this year as an adjustment compared to, I know last year was incredibly it wasn't the best year, right? However, we know the circumstances of what came about last year with the departure of Brianna Stewart, right? And Mercedes Russell not having the year that she wanted in recovery from that standpoint. So Jewel Lloyd literally kind of like had to carry this team and understand that it was going to be on her shoulders night in and night out. And unfortunately, because of the youth that they also displayed, along with a lot of veterans that they brought in the offseason last year with Sammy Wickham, right? And even a Jade Melbourne that came in now in Washington. But what has Coach Noel Quinn philosophy been like with the addition of a Sky and a NECA, and how has she adjusted to her strategies, knowing that the growth of what happened last year coming into this year with the higher expectations has pretty much taken its toll, and look forward to in the success of this year's team?
You know, I'm not going to speak for Coach Quinn, but if you were to ask her as far as what has probably been the biggest piece in everything coming together as quickly as it has, because like you said, start the season, it was people had some question marks. And I understood them, but you have to understand you're adding two veteran free agents. Skylar hasn't played in 20 plus months.
Absolutely.
NECA is adjusting to a new team, a new city after spending almost what I think the first 11, 12 years of her career in LA. It was going to take some time. But again, just if you ask Coach as far as what brought everything together, she'd definitely say Skylar Dick Smith at the point of attack, really just leading everything. Like they call her the head of the snake. Last year, she said it on multiple occasions that they just didn't have a point guard that could put pressure on the rim or really just run the offense consistently enough. And that was no shade to any players that were on the team last year. It's just they just couldn't get the job done, and that's just sometimes it's really just that simple. But then again, when you add a point guard like Skylar with that type of skill set, that type of cerebral attack on both sides of the floor, you have a floor general that allows you to kind of loosen the reins on everything. And coaches also attributed some of their success to that. It's not having to call a timeout every single time there's something like a run going around or there's something that she doesn't like, because Skylar is that extension of her on the court. And I don't think we appreciate that enough, considering, like, again, Skylar's coming back after not playing 22 plus months of basketball. Like, that is a very long time. And the first time that she came back, All Star, took Phoenix to the finals. We know this history went on there. And for her to come back and be as great as she's been, as quickly as she's been, I just think that just speaks volumes to the team and the support that she has. But also, just the fact that she's still herself as a hooper. She's still that same slash, that same, that same mentality that has made her, just one of the best basketball talents we've seen in basketball. But to know that she's being that, and that slowly but surely she's getting back to what she was. And sometimes she said it herself, even better, Mama Bear times two strength, where we've seen that. And, I just think that as long as she's at the helm, and as long as her and Coach know you're kind of building that camaraderie with the team and everything, the sky's the limit, because it starts with those two.
Yeah. And you also mentioned Coach Pokey Chapman, which shout out to Coach Pokey Chapman. I love her to death. She was on the pod when we were doing AU coverage, and she is just simply incredible. So, what have you seen in Coach Chapman's relationship with Sky, right? Because obviously Sky has been considered the head of the snake, as you mentioned. And again, I want to give flowers to Skylar Diggins Smith wholeheartedly. We love you dearly, and you are indeed one of the best point guards that we have seen in this game. And we truly, truly mean that. And I want to make sure that I reiterate that as we continue to speak highly of you. But their relationship, even beyond Coach Noel Quinn, because I know that Coach Chapman, she it's like she's a whisperer of sorts. She doesn't expect or exhume a lot of attention. However, people hear her, people listen to her carefully when she speaks. So what have you seen reporting with their relationship?
You know, there aren't enough nice things I can say about Coach Chapman, because she really is everything that you need. She's that voice that you need in your ear, where you need to fix some things up, but she's also there to give you grace at the same time.
Mhm.
And there aren't enough coaches that know how to balance the two, and that's why she's been in the game as long as she has, and has been as successful as she has. And if you ask Jewel, like she said a couple times before the season started, one of the main things that brought her back to Seattle was Coach Chapman and getting that promotion as far as assistant general manager role, and that played a big part. And also that really catapulted into Skylar and NECA
Mhm.
coming to Seattle, for the simple fact that you have a group of women that, one, look like you and can also relate to you. Again, I feel like some of these things go unnoticed because they're not broadcasted, they're not, spoken enough or given enough light to these type of things. But Coach Pokey has just done everything behind the scenes. Some of these post game interviews, not post game interviews, but post game videos that you see the team post, you'll see her in the corner with a piece of paper rolled up. She's got glasses on, she's looking over it, and you may think that she's like that all the time, but if you know Coach Pokey, she's a firecracker. She can yell if she wants to, but she doesn't have to, because she knows how to really just express herself. And coaches and players love that alike, man. I can't say enough nice thing about Coach.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with you. Listen, there's going to be very, very little times where we're going to disagree. For those who don't know, me and CB, I mean, again, we we go way back, from a basketball and a friendship standpoint, man. Like I just have nothing but great things to say about my guy here. So let's just segue into our last segment. And that's just basically analyzing, the previous streak that the Storm went on, and then coming into tonight versus the Las Vegas Aces, even with the recent loss to the Phoenix Mercury. Um, Along with those adjustments, what do you see coming into tonight? Obviously, the very first thing we're going to talk about is the adjustments, right? Going into the two the defending WNBA champions, as well as just looking at the matchup between the both of the Funky Four plus one more, if we're talking, because Chelsea Gray is back
She's
based
back.
off of reports. So, what is your analysis coming into the game, and what do you expect to see?
With Chelsea Gray coming back, you may not think it's going to play that big of a factor, because she hasn't played basketball in so long. You know, the last time we saw her was in the finals. But just having that mind on the court is what they've really missed. They've missed that extra coach on the floor. You know, I
Yeah.
felt like Becky has had to extend herself a little bit more than she's used to because she doesn't have that floor general on the court. But just adding Chelsea back to this team is going to do so much. I know it's just one game. You know, she's probably not going to light up the scoreboard or anything, but just having her on the court is going to do so many things for this team on both ends of the floor. They really haven't had, I don't want to call them a regular ship, but that's kind of what they felt like through these first really 10 games of the season, though. I can't remember last time you've seen them being at 500.
Right.
I mean, I think they lost, I can't remember how many games they lost last year, but I know they had as many losses before the All Star break as the entire season last year they've got now.
Right. I believe it's 6. I think they
Six.
have
They've
6. Yeah.
already got five.
Yeah.
That's crazy to say, and it's you can say that's of course Chelsea being gone, but there's just also other things that feels like that they've missed just from a mentality standpoint. Coach spoke to it a couple times. You know, she felt like they haven't been locked in. I think that all starts with Chelsea getting back and getting her groove. But the last loss Seattle had to Phoenix, you know, it felt like it was one of those games where it's just real uncharacteristic like play, and
Yeah.
that's what we saw from Seattle. You know, they're not going to kill you from the 3 point line like we've seen
Right.
that this season, but that's not their method of attack.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 10th right now in the league. I think shooting 30% from three. Yeah, it's still Skylar's shooting 54% at the rim, shooting around like 45% from the long two. Jewel right now, she's shooting one of her best mid ranges in her career right now.
Right.
So we're not really looking at that, but 3 point numbers, it's not good. I get that, but that's not how they really make their bread. Really starting inside out with Ezzy Necker right there at the rim. That's really how they begin every game, and then work their way inside out, having two slashers in Jewel and Skylar that can get to really just the rim at will. And then they're also their kickout game, having two bigs that can pass out of the paint, two guards that can also find open shooters behind them. Sammy, Jewel, really Jordan has been growing in that element as well. Victoria Vivians. I mean, they just have so many different threats that can really hurt you from anywhere on the court. But you didn't see that in that game against Seattle. So right now, Seattle against Phoenix. Right now, Seattle is averaging around 20 3 point attempts a game. Right, they took 10 in the first quarter against Phoenix. They were really trying to match Phoenix's pace of play. And one thing we've seen so far this season, don't try to do that against Phoenix because they will shoot you out of the game.
Right.
And it's crazy. DT, Ka having an unbelievable year,
Unbelievable. Yeah.
unbelievable year. And you would say like we always know, yeah, we have, but seeing it with your own two eyes and seeing her dominate every single game, unreal. But again, just back to Seattle, it felt like they were just trying to match that force of play. Eventually, they got back into the game in the second half, and that fourth quarter is really what killed them. Again, setting for jumpers. That's not their shot. And they lost that game. You know, coach said from the beginning, she said she felt like they were already trying to match their intensity on the defensive end, and it really showed in the offense. And one thing I think that didn't get enough attention was the fact that Mercedes Russell didn't play because
Mhm.
she was out with undisclosed illness. I think it was just a cold. You know, coach made a joke yesterday. Speaking to reporters saying that she felt like it was just the Seattle weather, it's just allergies going around or something like that. But also, Ezzy was under the weather as well, which we didn't know about until after the game on Sunday. So yeah, that played a factor into that as well. But also, enough excuses. BG cooking,
Incredible. Incredible. Right.
incredible. Since she's been back, that team is 4-1. They're a whole different team, and we said that when she got back, that's really all they needed. And people say, "Oh, they need to make a move. They can make a move." Like, yeah, Brady Grinder coming back, bro. Like, have you seen her on the short roll? You don't want to see her.
You don't want to see that. Right.
Just get out the way, man. Just get out the way. But that's what we've seen from that team so far with her back, and they've just been great. You know, before I think right now they were eighth in offensive rating before she got back. Now they're second in the last 5 games.
Yeah.
Points in the paint, opposing points in the paint, second in the league because she's back. You know, she may not block every shot, but making you hesitate that extra half second, it makes such a big difference during the shot clock and running the play, man. And that plays into really just their defensive attack.
Yep.
But enough about Phoenix, man. They've been dominating. I can't wait to see how that season develops for them. We've been waiting for them to put it together. And now that we're finally seeing a glimpse of what it could be, I just hate that it's going to be taking an Olympic break this year. But honestly, maybe everybody needs a rest. You
Yeah.
know, we've played a lot of games with a 40-game schedule with an Olympic break. So I think everyone needs that break.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And with the 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes that we have left, I just want to tell you, incredibly thank you for all of the coverage that you've been providing for us. And native of Chicago, shout out to the Shy, you know, went down to Dallas and shout out to Dallas, but now covering the Seattle Storm. You have done an incredible job, my brother, and I want to salute you and give you your flowers. And I want everybody to know where they can find you. And make sure you plug your stuff, and we'll leave it at that.
Listen, man. First of all, thank you. Don't deserve that many kind words, but I just like people tell me ask me all the time, man. I don't do it for me. I don't do it for I do it for the game, man. I grew up going to Fever games before Chicago even had a team. Tamika Catchings is my GOAT. Anybody asks me, that's why. One of the first real players I ever saw hoop and dominate. I mean, one of the best two-way players in the history of basketball. Not women's basketball, basketball, man. If you ever seen Tamika hoop, go watch YouTube.
Yeah,
Show you some
got
clips.
to.
But,
You
but
got
man,
to.
for real though, just thank you. I love what I do, and I'm blessed to be able to do it. Coming from hometown Chicago, coming down to Dallas, and not going to Seattle next year. It feels like that I'm just now be able to give back to the game so much of the game to me. And to be able to do that with comprehensive coverage, and also, call a spade a spade. There aren't a lot of us as far as black men in the space, black people, black women, reporting on a league that is 70% black. So we need more of us in these rooms. We need more of us advocating for us in these rooms as well.
Yeah, 100%, man. And again, I can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough. So, with that being said, this has been Codename Storm. Obviously, I'm your host, Kevin K. Lewis, the neighborhood nice guy, with my man, Kristen Braswell. Make sure you check out all of his writing and all of his reporting on Circling Seattle Sports, as well as check out the podcast, Beyond the Byline. And with that being said, again, this has been Kevin K. Lewis. As always, love is love. Peace.